The Denver Broncos were back at practice to kick off their final week of the regular season. And of course, this is not the final week of their season because they will be in the dancing in the playoffs in January. But this was the final week of practice for the Broncos, and it kicked off today. And there were some notable things that we saw on the field, didn't see on the field, and then we learned after practice, which I'm going to break all of that down. And before we do, hit us with a like, subscribe to this channel for all of your latest Broncos and Colorado sports news. We appreciate that a lot. And before we get into the news, happy New Year's Eve. That's what it is today. The new year kicks off tomorrow. And I must say that because Sean Payton had no idea that it was New Year's Eve when he was asked about, do you tell players to be extra safe tonight with New Year's? He said, I didn't even know it was New Year's Eve tonight. So happy New Year's Eve to Sean Payton and the Broncos. They're rolling into 2026 with a winning record and the chance to get the #1 seed. And the Broncos might have a key piece back on the field. Actually, two key pieces back on the field from their last time they played. There was good sights. Nate Adkins and Pat Bryant both practiced today after missing games last week. Pat Bryant, of course, suffered that very, very scary concussion where he was carted off the field, went to the hospital in the Broncos 2 games ago when they lost the Jaguars. That was a very scary situation. Ended up only being a concussion, and it's really good just 10 days later to see him back on the practice field. So we might see number 13 on the field for the Broncos in their final game of the season against the Chargers this week. He was a limited participant, same with Nate Adkins. There was only one player that did not practice for the Broncos, and that was Dre Greenlaw. This is expected. I told you last week Dre Greenlaw was going to be out multiple weeks. That's going to continue this week. He's not going to play this week, so not seeing him practice is not a surprise, but it's still good news that they have not put him on the injured reserve, meaning he is not going to be out. The Broncos expect him to not be out more than 4 weeks at least, so he'll be back for the playoffs if the Broncos win one of those playoff games. That's right around the time when Dre Greenlaw is supposed to be back from what I'm told and what I'm understanding. Now, we're on to the Chargers, where the Chargers are sitting a lot of their guys. We know Justin Herbert's not going to play, but Jim Harbaugh has made it clear that the Chargers might not play a lot of starters that are banged up and need to get healthy. So the Broncos might be playing against a JV Chargers team this coming week. And Sean Payton was asked, how do you prepare for that? And he said, we don't do anything different. This is a very, very good team. He made it clear that the Broncos haven't played good and they haven't coached good when they've gone against this Jim Harbaugh Chargers. And that's right, they're 0-3 since Jim Harbaugh took over the Chargers last season. That means Bo Nix has not beat the Chargers. So the Broncos are not taking this team lightly. They're looking at Trey Lance, the backup. They're looking at his strengths, what he can do, and I imagine they're going to be very, very aware of his running abilities. So they're going to want to cage rush him, keep him in the pocket. So that might not mean many sacks for the Broncos this week, but that was the exact same game plan that they had last week against the Chiefs' third-string quarterback, and it worked out pretty good. The Chiefs barely racked up 130 yards in the entire game. So that's what I expect from the Broncos. The Broncos are not taking this lightly because they know what's at stake in this game. The #1 seed in the AFC. The Broncos, if they win this game, they are the top seed in the AFC, no matter what anyone else does in the NFL this week. They win, and they're in to that #1 seed. And that #1 seed comes with a first-round bye. It comes with home field advantage. It comes with the opportunity that you're only 2 home games away from playing in the Super Bowl. And that is something that was stressed so much from Sean Payton, from Bo Nix to Courtland Sutton, and Pat Surtain after we talked to them after practice today. They know what's at stake this week. Even though they're playing Chargers backups, they have to win this game to accomplish Sean Payton's second goal, which is to get the best playoff seed possible. And they have that in their power to do that this week. So Sean is treating this like a playoff game, and his players are also treating it like a playoff game because Sean's message has trickled down. They all said the playoffs essentially start this week. And with the playoffs starting essentially this week, Sean Payton has a request for you, Broncos country. He wants you to be loud, louder than you've been in the past. And you've been loud in the past 3 home games, but he wants you to be louder earlier. He emphasized the earlier. So he's had a clear message over the past couple of weeks. He wants the crowd to be loud when the quarterback is in the huddle, not when he's at the line of scrimmage, when he's at the huddle. And Sean wants it to be even earlier, before he's even getting in the huddle. He wants the crowd to be deafening. I asked Bo Nix what that does for a quarterback when you're playing on the road, and he said it makes it extremely difficult. Makes it way more hard on the offense to operate properly. And so that's what Sean Payton wants from this Denver Broncos crowd, is to make it impossible for Trey Lance and any future quarterbacks that are coming into town in the playoffs. So he wants you to be super loud early in the huddle, and that is what will make a playoff atmosphere. Bo Nix said he's so excited to see what it's like playing in a home playoff game in Denver. Pat Surtain said it's just going to be incredible to play in the Mile High City in the playoffs. These guys are so excited to bring a home playoff game back to Denver for the first time in 10 years. The last time the Broncos had a home playoff game, Peyton Manning beat Tom Brady in the AFC Championship game to send the Broncos to Super Bowl 50. And the rest is history, with Peyton riding off into the sunset with his second Lombardi. So, crowd, get loud. Also, Sean Payton has a message for the scoreboard operator. He said, no shell games on the scoreboard, no Broncos head, no quizzes. He just wants it to be all about getting the crowd pumped up. So, focus is all about being loud this week. Sean Payton also talked about Bo and what he's seen from him and his progression over the past 2 years, over the last year, over the past couple of games. And one of the things that Sean pointed to that he's been so impressed with Bo is his off-schedule stuff and just how good he is at running the ball and also moving and making plays when he's on the run. Obviously, we know in that Chiefs game, there were a couple of runs early in the game that Bo Nix did not take, and then later in the game, he took them, and Sean Payton likes to see that. So Sean said Bo is extremely young, productive, and successful, especially when he's off schedule. And then a funny moment here. Sean was telling us a story that he had with Bo about Bo asked him, how many more years do you have left being a coach for us? And Sean said, 6, 7, or 8. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for the long run. And then he joked and said, but in the Raiders game earlier this year, I told Bo, maybe I only have 2 more years left because of how stressful it is. But that's what I've heard from Sean since the moment he was hired. He's not in this for the short term. He's in this for the long term. 6, 7, 8 more years from right now. I believe Sean Payton's going to hit a decade with the Broncos after having many conversations with him. And the Broncos are kicking off, they're ending the season in the best possible way with their throwback jerseys. They're going to be back for the 3rd time this year. That's the max number of times you can wear your throwback jerseys, and the Broncos are doing that on Sunday against the Chargers. And we got a little preview of them at practice today, and man, they are the best jerseys in the NFL, in sports, you can argue, especially those old school helmets. And this week, Sean Payton told us that there's only one player with big incentives on the line to round out the season, and it's Adam Troutman. He needs 5 catches to get to his incentives, and Sean Payton joked that, well, that's about a season of production for him. But Bo Nix said, don't sleep on Troutman. He might get to those 5 catches, and Bo said, if I'm able to, I'm going to get him those 5 passes so that he can get to those incentives. But Troutman didn't even tell Bo that he needed 5 catches. It was Sean that told him, because Bo said no one's focused on getting to their incentives, and Adam Troutman's not a guy to push that on anyone. But if the Broncos get up, I wouldn't be surprised if Troutman gets those 5 catches, because Sean Payton loves getting his guys incentives, and that's one of the things that makes him a great coach to play for and why players just absolutely love playing for him. And to round this out one more time before I got a fun story about Bo and dogs, hit us with a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. Subscribe to this channel. Make sure you stay tuned for all your Broncos playoff coverage over the next month and a half, potentially even leading to Santa Clara. Final thing we learned today, we all saw that viral video of Kirk Herbstreit forcing Bo Nix to touch the dog on the field before the Chiefs game, and it became very clear Bo Nix is afraid of dogs. He does not like dogs. And so he talked about that today, and he said, well, the biggest thing that's come out of this video coming out is how many people have come up to me saying, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm afraid of dogs. So a little fun there to end this. But the Broncos are very focused on beating the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday, secure that first round bye, secure a home playoff game, which will turn into 2 home playoff games. and that's the only thing that stands in between them and Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara. That's going to do it for today. Stay tuned the rest of the week.